checking the old computer. Let's see what's on the YouTube.
I think if we could take these old builds and turn them into a beautiful sea diorama. That's my challenge to you.
Looks like Cthulhu will get another chance for redemption. Welcome to another episode of Frankie D. Crafter. This week, we're taking yet another challenge by our friend over at Bards Craft. I have chosen Cthulhu as my champion to make an epic looking diorama.
Cthulhu? I know that guy. This should make a splash! Welcome back to Creatures, Encounters, and Crafting. Today we're going to answer the challenge set forth by the Bards Craft and Frankie D. Crafter. We're going to make ourselves a epic sea diorama. To do this, we're just going to use a marker, a ruler here, and I've got some polystyrene board here, and we're going to just start cutting this up into some manageable pieces. As you can see, I'm using a saw blade for this. You can use a knife or whatever else you have on hand, maybe even karate chop it, I don't know. Anyways, once we've had this cut up into some pieces, we're just going to start playing around with some things. I like to kind of place things on the board just to kind of see how they fit. You can draw this up if you want to. Me, I'm a little bit more proactive and just kind of let the creative juices come as I start putting things there together. Now, as you can see, I have cut this into several pieces. The blocks are about 3, maybe 2.5 inches. I'm going to probably have to glue these together. And to do that, I'm just going to use a little bit of wood glue. Notice I've already got some there on these. And what you can do is just put these together and maybe just put a paint bottle on top. Anything just to add a little weight and pin those down. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and cut. Favorite part, hiya! Now we're just going to go ahead and start to utilize this piece on our board. We need to go ahead and rough this up. We are talking about the post-apocalypse, so we're going to take a knife and just start taking some chunks out of this. This is where you can really be creative. In my opinion, I don't even think you can go wrong in this process, so have at it. Next, I'm going to make some I-beams using some popsicle sticks. I've used this in a previous video, so if you're not sure how to make these, go check that out. I'll link it at the bottom. We're just going to secure this together using some hot glue. We're also going to take some Q-tips and cut those up. Those are going to look like pipes coming out of the concrete. And we're also going to use some paper clips as rebar. Just go ahead and stick those in, secure them with a little bit of glue. To add some more detail, I'm going to create some concrete pillars. I've done this in episode 24. Basically, we're just going to cut out some styrofoam and just start picking this with our fingers. This is going to create a nice worn concrete look. We'll also use some paper clips to create some rebar effects. This is what it should look like in the end. Next, I'm going to start hot gluing some of the pieces down to the board. Notice I've marked some spots out, and this was just to kind of get an idea of where I wanted things placed. You can always rearrange, but it's a good idea to kind of know where you want to go before you start gluing things down. Now, I did decide to add another column to this, and I think I'm going to keep the top part where I can remove it. I'm going to take a little bit of modeling paste now and start filling in these gaps on the styrofoam columns. Now, you can use some spackling if you don't have that modeling paste. This is just going to kind of cover things up, make it look like a nice solid piece. And of course, we're just going to put a little bit of this on our brush like so. And we'll just rub that in. And as it dries, you can add some more to this. Don't get too caught up with it. It's not going to look totally perfect, but it's going to look good for me. And just keep remembering that we are going to put something on top of this. So here is a shot of the board as I've laid things out. Notice I've put the concrete pillars there to the right, and I've also added an I-beam. And we're just going to give everything a chance to cool down and dry. So my concept was a large skyscraper in the middle of the ocean, and to sell that, I'm going to create a back wall and just make some really big windows. So Frankie D and the Bards Craft had really awesome ways to create their ocean, so I wanted to provide another method. And what I'm going to do is take some wood glue and also some air dry modeling clay, and what we're going to do is start putting the glue down onto the foam board like so. And we're just going to take a brush and start to smooth that out. Now you want to kind of go a little thin with this. I got a little heavy with it, but what we want to do is just coat the entire board like I'm doing here. You can even maybe water this if you want. And we're just going to start taking some of the clay and pushing that onto the board like so. Now don't worry about forming this. This is going to take a little time, but this is really kind of fun. This is going to be a great experiment. I've never done a big project like this before using clay, so I'm excited to see how it turns out. So here we have the clay pushed out, and what I'm going to do is just take a spoon and just start smoothing things like so. Now you can use a little water for this, and you can actually get in there with your fingers, start smoothing that out as well. Now I did run out of the polyform clay, so I had to switch to DAS, which was a little bit different consistency, but as you can see here, I'm still just applying it as I did before. And this process does take a little time. Be patient with it. It will come out looking very nice. Don't worry so much about the cracks. You want to try to smooth those out as much as you can, but it is clay, so you're going to see a little cracks. We're going to get that all taken care of, so don't worry too much about that. And here we have our board. Notice that it is still wet where I've been smoothing things out. And we're just going to let this dry. I would probably give this at least a full 24 hours. If not, you might even want to wait 2 days. Just depends on how wet that clay is when you're working with it. Remember, you can always tap it with your fingers to see if it's nice and hard. But just give it time. Don't rush this part. Alright, we're going to put some Mod Podge onto the foam, and to do this we're just going to use our paintbrush and start applying it like so. Now this does a great job of hardening the foam. To me it makes it stronger, so I would highly suggest this step, especially if you're going to spray paint foam. That will protect it from the solvents. In this case, I'm not really going to spray paint anything. I just want to go to strengthen it. So next, I'm going to go ahead and glue the back wall to the base. I'm also going to use that same concrete technique that I used for the pillars. And I'm also going to add an I-beam there on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and put some kitty litter on here for flocking. I'm also using some coffee stir sticks and just a random bit that I got from a play set. And we're going to go ahead and apply a coat of Mod Podge to that base and back wall. Then we're going to black bomb everything. Remember guys, the Mod Podge is there to help prevent the solvents from eating through the foam. So make sure that you don't skip that process. And once our black primer has dried, we're going to go ahead and give this a coat of uniform gray. And then we're just going to start picking out the steel beams with a burnt umber. That's going to be a great base for a rust effect. And of course we'll allow all this to dry, and then we'll start to apply a dry brush. Remember, we're going to go from dark to light. We're going to use that dark gray, that light gray, and that suede, and you can actually mix those as you progress. I'm going to start weathering the back wall and base using the environmental paint by Vallejo. The name of this is Slime Green. I'm also going to use a transparent green, but you can use any light green that you want. Just to tone everything down, I'm going to use a black wash. This is the Black Magic Craft recipe. You can use a Nuln Oil or an ink if you like. You might even use a mixture of brown washes as well. Now my favorite part, onto painting the ocean. And to do this, I'm just going to use a blue. And I'm also going to use a craft paint black. And we're just going to mix those two together and start applying it like so. Now guys, I would advise not to add any type of water to your paint. You do not want to rehydrate the clay. If you want this to flow a little bit better, maybe use something like Liquitex. I'm not doing that, I'm just applying it straight. And we're going to do this all over the board. Now we're going to come back and start hitting some of the highlights using a green. For this I'm using a Dwarven Forge brand, but you can use any type of darker green. Now we're going to start picking out some of the white caps here, especially where they're hitting against the concrete. Lost a little focus here, guys. Apologies. There we go. And here we have our board fully painted. I want to point out where I use varying shades of green and blue to add depth to the waves, and especially around the concrete blocks. Now we're going to use a Minwax polyacrylic. This is a high gloss varnish. We're going to apply 2 coats. The first coat we'll allow to dry. The second coat, we're just going to put a little tinge of green paint in there. Don't worry, it will dry clear. You'll just have a faint hint of that green, and it'll add a lot of depth to it. Let's see what it looks like on the table, guys. And here we have our finished project. Final thoughts on this? I'm really digging these challenges. They push me to try new things, and I enjoy it. I think I'm growing as an artist, trying to get out of my comfort zone, which I would say is true with most things. Whether learning a new skill, working out, if you get out of your comfort zone, you'll be surprised with the results, and you really do grow. The modeling clay that I used, I was a little skeptical about that. It was muddy, it was cracking. I really didn't know how it was going to come out, but ultimately it was perfect. The paint job was simple, yet very effective, especially when it was combined with the polyacrylic high gloss varnish. Guys, I will probably use this in my game tables. If I had to do anything differently, I would have probably based this on some wood or MDF. I'm not exactly sure if MDF would work, but wood would probably have been better. I did see a little warping, nothing to be concerned about, but I could see how that could go wrong. If you're going to attempt to do this, I would suggest going smaller. Maybe do an ultimate dungeon terrain. That would be great. Maybe ultimate water terrain. But I think it would look really great, and you'd probably get more reusability out of it as opposed to what I did here. Anyway, guys, as always, I will leave you with a good video for the end. Hey guys, that's a wrap for this week. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I had a good time with this challenge, and I encourage you to try it yourself. Go out and make an epic sea diorama. You'll have a great time doing it and learn a lot. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. I can always use a few more subscribers. And more importantly, share this with someone that might like this type of craft. Guys, y'all stay safe. Keep your friends and your family safe as well during this time. We'll catch you next week. Goodbye.